I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. It's a muggy day here in New York City. A little gray, overcast. That does not stop Andrew Kuo from having the brightest demeanor in the room. Andrew, what's going on?
That's right, man. Yo, I got a rat problem up in here. It's crazy. It's that time of year. I look out into my backyard. These survivors, these warriors, these dogs, rats in my backyard, like on the fence tops, in the bushes, like underneath stuff. I'm like, God damn, have you ever had a rat problem in your kind of living vicinity?
Well, I thought when you said a rat problem, I thought that you had snitches in your midst. That you had.
We're getting to that. We are
You
getting to that.
You had stool pigeons, perhaps?
Listen, I'm an NBA news breaker. Bite your tongue. I'm no rat. I just report news that I hear that other people give to me so I can leak it. For example, a president stepping down from his nomination process.
Yes, I get that. I saw someone on X, formerly known as Twitter, the quasi-viral meme. I can't remember if your boy Elon or someone else had reposted it, but the gist was like, it's always your friends that betray you.
Right. That's what betrayal is. God. Okay.
My enemies have stabbed me in the back.
Yo, these haters.
I didn't see it coming.
Hating, yeah.
My ops.
It's always those closest to you that end up betraying you.
I thought that my ops could be trusted.
The call is coming from inside the house. Okay, so these rats, man. I'm sympathetic to rodents. I love rodents. They're kind of cute. They do cool stuff. I had hamsters growing up, so I like their whole aura. But, when you're living somewhere, it's not great to have these gray maestros rooting around, making their nests and feasting on the key food garbage 2 doors down. And there's also construction going on, so I had to get an exterminator out of solidarity because my neighbors got an exterminator. And in order for that to work, everyone has to do it. So I was like, fine, this guy's really cool. I'm like, I will do it, even though I do not want to kill these rats or harm the cats that hunt the rats, whatever. I'm burying the lead here. The exterminator came and did not Paul Pierce my house. It's so crazy. I was watching. I was bated breath. I was like, what's going to happen first? And the first thing they did was look for the rats. It's like they didn't rush to the bathroom, come out, 4 people carrying this one person, and then triumphantly emerging from the wheelchair to fix my rat issue.
Were you kind of insinuating that perhaps he should take a shit? Like, hey, good to meet you. You sure you don't need to, take a load off? And kind of nodding towards the bathroom door, gesturing in its direction, anything like that?
Oh, no, I have a rat problem, not a turtle problem. Turtle heads are not a problem here. But if they are, the bathroom is down there.
Hey, do you need to chuck up a deuce? Anything?
Listen, these rats are not chocolate-covered hostages. Their release does not have to be negotiated. But if you do that as a thing, the bathroom is right here.
So
They.
They?
Yeah, it was not a he.
Okay, so they?
Yeah, sure.
They refused your bathroom. Was it not good enough for them?
Is my bathroom not good enough for you? I had cleaned it too right before they came in. This is a whole nother saga I want to talk about, man. Have you Like, how weird are you about household cleaning supplies?
I mean, cleaning up the bathroom for the exterminator is awesome.
Wait, you don't do that? When someone's coming to fix stuff in your house, you don't clean up like bathroom stuff?
No, they're not allowed to use the bathroom.
No, the
I
first thing
keep
they
it
do is
off.
take
I
a
lock
shit
it.
in the bathroom.
Oh, not allowed. I'm like, hey, TaskRabbit, you might want to shit before you get here.
They're gonna shit on the whole job then, man. That's a bad culture.
Bathroom for residents only. Sorry, not my rules.
Every time I expect someone to come over, whether that be like a TaskRabbit or an exterminator or a plumber or a friend, the first thing I do is clean the bathroom. Like, I wipe down all the countertops, I Clorox everything, and then I spray the floors. You don't do that?
I mean, I don't Clorox everything before an exterminator comes, no.
Oh. Well, I've gotten weird with cleaning supplies. I got children around, so like I don't want to like spray everything with bleach or chemicals or anything. So I've been mixing vinegar and water and alcohol, rubbing alcohol, not like Ciroc or martinis. And my whole house smells like
How
vinegar.
is this concoction working?
It's pretty good. I heard it's just as good. It's hard to tell. Do these chemicals actually hurt you? I mean, I switched out all my aluminum stuff to stainless steel stuff because I heard aluminum leaches too much into food. I don't know. It's not going to be the aluminum that gets me. It's going to be the politics.
That's the thing about the microplastics, right? It's like, well,
It's in my balls.
they're in everybody's balls. You're like, I guess we're on an even playing field then.
I like people who are on social media being like, how can it be in 100% of balls when they haven't checked mine?
Like, sir, we've checked your balls. There's microplastics. When? You don't worry about it. But rest assured, it's full of plastic.
You're not really awake right now, but that's a different story. Yeah, the microplastics thing freaks me out because it's not like, it's just like washing machine stuff. It's polyester, right? It's like Donald Trump t-shirts that are like 50-50 blends.
So I was thinking about, before we get into real politics, fictional politics, say you were running a country 50 years ago. You're like, hey, I'm Obi Toppin. I'm running the country 50 years ago. Plastic, not allowed. It's not allowing it. You can't manufacture plastic in America. Could things have just gone on in that way? Or, 50 years ago, no more oil, no more gas. It's got to be electric. Like, could the world have taken this totally different route? And it was just based on just governance. Plastic is illegal. Using gasoline to fuel things is illegal. Not to say that things would have functioned the same way, but could that have happened?
This reminds me of AOC's plea on social media. She's like, we just cannot do it. There's unions in the way. There's a process for this. We cannot have a change of a candidate. And I was like, this is not the sunset or like the rotation of the earth. You're a politician, do it. And I agree with you. It's just like, what if at some point we were like, hey, everyone's wearing shoes and we're not using plastic?
Yeah, it's like, okay, so this substance that we've created, it never disintegrates. It just stays around forever, for eternity. So this like tiny little toy that you're giving to people in a pack of bubble gum or popcorn, whatever. I'm thinking like 1950s nostalgic toys. So this is going to exist forever. For the eternity of humanity, this little plastic bauble will exist. Okay, yeah, that's illegal.
Right. I mean, at that point, the world felt endless. And we're getting into some silent generation versus boomer shit here. I'm sad that conflict of heavyweights is now over. May never see the light of day again.
The gray maestros, as you put it?
Yeah, the gray maestros. Man, they're smart little critters. Maestros, as they say. Maestros. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, what stupid shit do we do? Like margarine. Like, I think fake meat now is in... Would you be surprised in 5 years, everyone's like, Right, you know that lab grown meat turns out not great for us. Turns out not good enough to even sell in supermarkets. Like, would
The
you be
fake
surprised?
meat is in my balls. Oh, come on.
It's in everyone's balls. But yeah, it's like, what if we decided not to eat cows? Man, did you see that viral tweet? It was amazing. Maybe it was a TikTok that went onto my Twitter feed. Some woman was like, I'm 29 years old and I didn't know you can eat the lemons that were growing on my lemon tree back in my backyard. And she was like, does anyone think this? Like, I didn't know I could just take fruit off the tree and eat it. And she got roasted. And I was like, but I kind of see her point, right? Because they tell you can't drink any water from any lake. You cannot just use stuff that's available to you. It has to be like, you cannot eat fish. You know, it's like, do not eat fish that comes out of the Gowanus Canal. It's like, okay, but it's water and it's a natural thing. It's like, you cannot eat the fish. She might be like, don't I have to buy it from a place that made it in a controlled environment and not just like my backyard with cars zooming by and like rats being maestros conducting orchestras around my tree?
No, I agree. And yeah, she sounds like a dimwit. I mean, obviously. But your point, I think, is fair, that there's a disconnect between these products that we consume and their origins. As you were saying, like, we don't look at a pig and say, I'm going to butcher that. We go and we get a slab of meat that's on a little styrofoam carton with plastic around it.
And it's called pork. It's not a pig. It's pork. Right.
I've told this story several times, I think, about eating like a pig's face
Yeah.
at an Italian restaurant, and it feeling closer to God, Andrew.
Right. The whole pig in, is it Vietnamese cuisine, like sisig, or Filipino maybe? That sizzling pig face platter.
Right.
Delicious. You got to eat
This
the whole
was
thing.
this was Italian, but it was like you're just like, give me that jowl, dog.
Italians, a swagger jacket in all the Asian countries.
It started in the boot, Italy.
Isn't it crazy how no matter what happens, no matter what crazy thing happens, well, that's not true, but probably we will have an Asian person in the White House.
Are you saying that Trump is partially Asian?
No, J.D. Vance's wife is Indian.
I mean,
His kid's named Vivek, I think.
there's a lot of goated Viveks out there.
Yeah.
I guess my question is the wife of the vice president, are they technically in the White House?
That's a good question. I think they are. I consider the White House the president, vice president, and their family. I don't know.
I mean,
And-
they're White House adjacent. They're Oval Office pilled.
Like Dick Cheney was the motherfucking White House. Kamala Harris is going to be maybe the next president. She was in the White House, right? Like this is the VP family is in there. The Emhoff family is up in there.
Do they live there?
That I don't know. Remember when Trump was like, this place is full of rats or mice? He was really complaining about how things weren't gilded in gold and pristine, sort of like my house.
Is the White House kind of shitty?
It's, yes, I heard it is, but it depends on your definition of shitty, because I think as New Yorkers who aren't filthy rich on Billionaires Row, we might roll in and be like, this is not shitty at all.
It may be a little outmoded, and they don't have the JJ Redick gold toilets.
Wow, does Reddick have a Maurizio Catalan toilet?
I just feel like if you're an exterminator and you get to JJ's house, like, wow, you're going right for the gold toilet.
I imagine everyone who enters JJ's house goes into a pristine bathroom and leaves with a sleeve. It's like, oh, you went to Reddick's? It's like, yeah, man.
Yeah, I got a
Check-
Maroon 5 tattoo.
Check out these Asian symbols. But yeah, so
all right, so you're saying there's going to be an Asian in the White House.
right. Yes.
But isn't there already, then, by your definition?
You're right. But no matter what happens moving forward, maybe we're 8 years into Asians running this shit.
Like, no, it's going to be totally different than it is from right now.
Well, it's crazy that the MAGA side has an Asian person in it. That's just wild. I mean, JD Vance is confusing, right? Like, to pick anybody, did you it was, talked about, rumored, rats were talking about it. But I was surprised because he's got some weaknesses.
Well, he's an interesting chap.
He sure is. I mean, all right, he's in 2 bands, Death Cab for Cutie and Postal Service.
He's in the Walkmen.
Oh, do they have a JD Vance-ass player? Like their keyboardist, maybe?
I thought they did. Again, I haven't looked at a picture of the Walkmen in years, but they had the song The Rat.
That's true. That is about that's about Sean's, right?
Woj, asleep at the switch. Didn't even announce Biden stepping down.
The classic indie sleaze song about Adrian Wojnarowski.
So yeah, Vance he's a bit of an odd duck, an obvious huckster, but also maybe a true believer. Kind of an interesting dynamic there. He wrote a book about his upbringing in white Trashesville, and arrived at the conclusion that the reason that poor white people have shitty lives is because they're lazy. Although the book itself was fairly empathetic to their plight and the pillheads and opiate fiends of his community and his Meemaw and everyone. But he arrived at a place that I did not see the movie, but I guess the conclusion was that, well, they're lazy, and that's why their lives suck. So he's a populist who also went to Yale and seemingly hates the poor.
It's confusing, right? I mean, he doesn't seem to love the poor if he's going to sidle up to Trump. And he's publicly made disparaging comments about Donald Trump in public and in private, and I think his roommate ratted him out, like the classic rat behavior, calling him like the H-bomb, as everyone does. Didn't accuse him of being the P-bomb, though, which is the song of the summer. But he is confusing, right? Because J.D. Vance believes in pro-life policies and with no gray area. And I think that is a confusing message to run on if you're any politician, because that stance is deeply unpopular.
I can't speak to his motives for getting into politics, but there is one theory.
It's money. Come on.
Well, no, there's one theory that he, similar to Trump, was embarrassed and angry by reviews of the movie. And
I love it.
It was like the liberal Hollywood rejection
like villain origin
of him,
stories. Right.
in the same way that Trump ran for office after Obama made fun of him at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Do you have that experience in
I
your
don't know
life?
if that's true.
Yeah. Did something ever happen to you where you used it as bulletin board material so much that you wanted to run for office?
Yeah, honestly, this happens almost daily.
Do tell.
You know, someone makes fun of me. I'm like, I'm running for the U.S. House of Representatives.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna be.
Ben,
that.
you're a bitch. Cool. Now I'm alderman.
Go back to your own country. It's like, I'm gonna be the rat czar of Brooklyn, man. Just watch out. Composting. That's my thing.
Didn't like the pod. Okay, I'm running for king.
Yeah. Hated your Knicks takes. Dictatorship. Here we go.
You're in a gulag. Now what?
So that I quite enjoy that. I haven't heard that origin story with Vance, but that makes sense because that can really motivate somebody, especially a criticism of a memoir that's your memoir.
But I felt as if it was the neolibs really loved the book and elevated him to being a literary star based on that, because it kind of fits in with neolib culture as well, even though he's from a conservative bent. The idea that poor people fundamentally you can be empathetic towards them, but it's because they suck.
Yeah. Also, the popularity of the book is quite anecdotal too, right? It sold. It became a New York Times bestseller. There's a lot of those, and there's discussion about how that happens, but fair enough. And the movie was fine. It got made to be a movie. It's like Tatum Nation being like, he's the most hated player. I'm like, he's first team All NBA. He's an All-Star. He's representing the USA, Team USA. He's always mentioned as an MVP. Like, I don't know what you want. That is not hate. But any slight for motivation works, right? So I don't think it's like a neo-lib thing. It's just he was popular enough because people love poverty porn, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's Glenn Close wearing her poor person outfit.
Make me ugly. Give me the award. Yeah, I don't think it's like a political kind of motivated thing. And this is my theme about everything. I think we're overthinking everything. Books like that become bestsellers all the time.
They use the Escape from Dannemora makeup kit.
a lot of like sunspots.
Like, oh, you're from upstate New York. Let's give you the Escape from Dannemora look, even if you're in the Appalachians. It's just a general sort of poverty filter.
They were dragging Gates for shooting up with, talking about needles, Botox, like at the RNC. And I kind of like, and your boy Biden doesn't look the same as he did like 5 years ago, even though this is the fourth Biden, or he might even be a hologram, who knows. But I kind of felt sympathetic towards people who get Botox because, I don't know, you try your best. And it doesn't even look that weird. I'm so used to like Hollywood people getting this that I'm like, I just saw a Hillbilly Eulogy. I saw Glenn Close. I saw Paul Dano in his cultural costume. Like, this is not anything unusual to see, right? Like, people shot up with Botox is just very normal seeming.
Well, let me say this. Matt Gaetz looks snatched out there. He was yassified, as far as I'm concerned.
Is he going through his brat summer?
Matt Summer.
Matt Summer. I mean, he's not my favorite.
Yeah, his eyebrows were, as they say, on fleek. They were very
2017. Incredible. I'm at MSG. I'm watching the Pablo release party. Joe Biden's giving a fiery speech. It was on fleek.
He was. So yeah, he was snatched. Yes, he was yassified. Yes, he was on fleek. His eyebrows look very angular, very angular.
Yeah, he's turning into like a Dracula type dude.
How old do you think he is, Andrew?
52.
42.
That's almost as old as Obi Toppin.
I'm just saying, he doesn't need to be getting all this work done at 42.
I don't know. He's got to appeal to like the younger crew. He's got a certain kind of riz, man. He's not dealing with the same deck as we are. He is. Times Square is full of old timers to him.
The kids, like Matt Gaetz, because you know what the kids have? Eyebrows that are on fleek.
No wrinkles. Fleeked out. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He, to me, is not my favorite politician. But then I realized all this, Biden, Kamala, J.D. Vance, I like people who want good things for the country, for more better, more perfect. I hate all politicians, man. I've not seen one on my television or newspaper that I've enjoyed. I just don't like politicians. So, like, I don't really like Kamala. I'm like, yeah, I agree with you, because no politician's that chill.
Well, let's get to the big story of the day.
Hulk Hogan. Ooh,
CrowdStrike PC hack.
Yeah, where were you? Where were you when the CrowdStrike PC hack happened?
So let's get to it. Your man, Sleepy Joe, A.K.A. Genocide Joe, A.K.A. Fat Joe, the fat gangster.
Listen, they nicknamed me on the streets for that wonderful politician from Pennsylvania.
A remarkable statesman who dedicated his life to the service of this country. Fat Joe.
Doting father. Yeah, Fat Joe. When is Fat Joe? Can you get on a ticket? I mean, it's close, right? Like, watching footage of Montel Jordan roll up with his girlfriend, Kamala Harris. One of his two girlfriends, Kamala Harris. It's kind of surreal.
Yes. Also, if Eric Adams needed a running mate, which of course you do not because the mayor doesn't have a running mate, you could almost rest assured it would be Fat Joe or Jadakiss.
Or a rat. An actual rat. Like on a leash. And he would be holding the leash. And the rat would have a tiny podium next to his normal sized podium.
Andrew, let's get back to the main story.
All right.
So, let's take a walk back through time. June 27th, the calamitous debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, in which it is revealed that Joe Biden, unbeknownst to all of us who thought he was fit as a fiddle,
He was sundowning, man. It's just a bad time of day.
that this decomposing man has been unfit for office for some time. And then the calls started coming out. This guy has to step down. Now we're nearly a month later, and he did. It's official. As of yesterday afternoon, he will not be seeking a second term. He's still our president for the next 6 months.
I mean,
This guy who is unable to tie his own shoes or run a popsicle stand is still the leader of the free world, of course. But he's not going to say 4 more years.
but isn't it kind of ironic that, like, he is doing what any able-bodied president would do every day, right? Like, I think if he was 40-year-old Joe Biden, he would do the exact same shit. Maybe not even the good stuff that we like forgiving student loans. Maybe he's like, I'm a great grandpa now. My son smokes crack. Everybody, you owe too much money. It's a rigged system. I'm going to make it easy for you. Like, that is an old man thought, right? And the debate when Trump won was, what does a president actually do? Turns out quite a bit in terms of Supreme Court justices, writing things into law. Like, should Biden just burn everything down now? He has a small window to just be like, I'm going to pack the courts, everyone, their student debt is forgiven. What was the big one? Oh, making Election Day a holiday. Like, he could just do all this stuff right now.
I would say he won't, because Joe Biden is a bad person and a bad politician. I just mean the idea that based on the fact that he no longer is running for election, he could do all this good stuff. It's like, well, he's just as likely to do bad stuff. I mean,
Sure, but the presidential seat is a seat that you must kind of commit to bad stuff, right? Like, there's no, and you're talking about the Middle East disaster.
well,
right?
I'm talking about everything. I would say Joe Biden, for his career, has been an utterly reprehensible politician going back 50 years. He's been wrong about everything. He's a segregationist. He's, in a puppet for the credit card industry. He was pro-Iraq war. He's funding a genocide. I mean, Joe Biden, the architect of the epic crime bill. He's been terrible his entire life. And like, now that he stepped down, or I'm sorry, will not be seeking re-election, people can stop appealing to his vanity because, wow, what an exemplary man. Like, no, he's been wrong about everything. He's been really bad about everything. So I'm only bringing up this critique of him as a great man or statesman to say, well, Joe Biden untethered, I don't see why he'd do anything that was good. Joe Biden untethered may be like, hey, we're bringing back segregation. That's what I like.
And this
Him
is
with no rules as a de facto dictator for 6 months, there's no indication he would say, you know what? If you were arrested for crack cocaine, wink, wink, you're free.
And this is kind of what I meant by, like, I am not into liking politicians. They have jobs that make me dislike them. They have responsibilities at their job that make me dislike them. But is there a president you do like? Hello?
Sorry, pregnant pause on that one.
Oh.
Is there a president I like?
Has there been a president in your lifetime that you were like, they did a good job?
I would say no. Obama had moments where we were really optimistic about
That's different.
he would
Being
do in
optimistic,
office.
right? Because he
like,
was.
this is gonna be awesome.
It was not awesome, and Biden kind of does the same thing Obama does, right? And Obama kind of did the same thing W did. Is, like, now that Biden is relinquishing the nomination, is there any person realistically that you would enjoy being in this position?
Like a politician that I would like as president.
Yeah, if there was a name being like, it's going to be Bernie Sanders, would you be like, finally?
Yeah, that's not a lot, because to be in office,
I would say zero, right? A big fat zero. Because we're judging it on a weird scale. We're not judging it on people we think are ethical and moral and we'd like to have a beer with. All these politicians to get to this point in their lives have done things that we will not enjoy.
I think about that sometimes, right? Because your man Matt Gaetz,
Eyebrows.
snatched, yassified, on fleek. Yeah. There was the whole thing with the sex trafficking and whatnot. Just kind of faded into the background. I guess it's fine. The crossing state lines.
It's
the
still
Venmoing.
there. Yeah, it's still there, kind of like, but we didn't even talk about Donald Trump almost getting shot. Like, that just feels like a million years ago. We didn't even pod about that yet.
Oh shit!
You know what I mean? Like, who cares about that? Like, the Celtics are champions. I'm like, yeah.
No.
Giannis.
We did. The last pod we talked about it.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah. And we both concluded that we don't really care either way.
Oh, right, because I was like, hey, man, shit's crazy out there. I am not one to value life on a different scale.
Just landed on Presidents Die Every Day, B.
Right. Hey, man, we're eating those seed oils every day, man, dodging bullets.
Look, we got microplastics in our balls. What do you want me to be concerned about?
Hold on, not my balls. Okay, no one's checked my balls. Oh, I'm asleep. This is a simulation. God damn it.
Andrew, yep, there's plastic in there.
God damn it. Oh well, I'm just like everyone else now. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, I get skeptical Democrats. That's a whole thing on my feed. And, like, my Twitter feed is just my Twitter feed. It's not real life. When political statisticians pop up on my feed, like Nate Silver, I'm like, yeah, you're doing a Twitter thing, though. When Jamel Hill comes on, it's like, well, the take is, I'm like, this is a Twitter-only thing. I don't...
You know what?
What's that?
Sorry. Oh, no, sorry. Finish that thought, because it made me think of something that I wanted to bring up. Please finish that thought, though.
There's not much more to it, but, like, we are complicating this way too much. We're like, this is unprecedented. AOC being like, this cannot be done. I'm like, it all can be done. This all can be done. You can replace nominees. You know, when the Barstool guy is like, you know, one bite, you know, everyone knows the rules and takes 20 bites. He's like, you cannot do that. I'm like, aren't you guys the party of, like, flipping it around, switching it up? Like, the dude's too old. You said he was too old. We agree. He's too fucking old.
Well, yes, the Democratic Party really loves decorum, if nothing else.
They're politicians, though.
It can't be done. Okay, we're doing it. Well, I guess it can.
Yeah. I mean, Right. It's like, these are not our friends. Maybe that's my point, right? It's like, and maybe that's Kamala Harris's weakness. She's a prosecutor. She is not friendly. She tries to be friendly. We can see through the bear number 3 in a split second, right? And I think voters are savvy that way. Like, we smell a rat. And
I saw someone tweeting, this is literally a felon against a prosecutor. It's like, don't make this harder than it needs to be.
no, this is
Like,
not hard. Yeah.
Are you making me second guess who I should be voting for here?
Yeah. Right. I mean, we love cops. It turns out we love talk about a Twitter only thing. I'm deep into like BLM. That whole movement was like super meaningful. And then New York City turns around and elects a cop who's been paid off. Like everyone knows this, and I'm like, oh, maybe the feelings on my feed that are so curated are not reflective of what's happening in a voting booth.
Hard to say, right? Not to get waylaid on an Eric Adams discussion, or the sort of dynamic with, millions of Americans taking to the streets saying we need, reform of the criminal justice system, and America's response being like, we hear you, we're going to pump more money into the cops and put them in the vice presidency and the mayoral office in New York. Got it. Just we've heard your plea, America. Your chanting came up into our ivory towers, and we have given you exactly what you want: more funding for the police and more power.
And it's hard to figure out what was right and wrong, right? It's hard to figure out what worked and what didn't. It's like, it's still up for debate. So I don't know. I am not a political nihilist. I believe stuff has immediate effects and ramifications. But at some point I'm like, and this is what Republicans feel. It's like, how do I make my one vote 20 votes? Like that's what it feels like. It's like, can I convince someone on Twitter? I'm like, no, you cannot. It's like,
how do I vote early and often?
Yeah, it's like, well, we want to, so they must be doing it. But what was your thought about the dead internet theory?
My thought about the RNC, I did not watch a ton of it, but being familiar with the Republican conservative platform in 2024, they are pretty clearly Twitter poisoned. And
you think so?
I think it's evident that this echo chamber of conservative punditry on Twitter with Fox News and the sort of swarm of followers and the people who are in that world, like these 3 sort of pillars of it, whether it's like the vestiges of traditional media with whatever, the Breitbarts or whatever, the other
Newsmax.
Exactly, Newsmax. And then you've got the politicians and the pundits, and then you have their fandom, like the people who propel their posts to popularity. In other words, that start with P. I'm like, you guys are really, really into yelling about trans athletes. Like, you're super into this. Like, oh my God, the trans athletes. We need to get up there at the convention and yell about trans athletes. It's like, I'm not sure these are big issues. This feels like you guys have discussed this and yelled about it, and you think they're big issues. You think this is how you get burned. You get traction off of yelling about 6'5" swimmers that are, originally born men and are ruining the high school sports. I'm like, this doesn't seem like a real barn burner for the average American voter. They just feel very Twitter brained.
Yeah. I mean, I still stand by the take that the GOP's fucked. Like, the ghost of Biden would have beaten Trump. I only say that because it already happened. And I think the RNC was more proof that they got nothing. They wanted to hammer the economy. The economy is doing better than we thought, so they lost that kind of thing. They don't want to talk about abortion because that will lose them everything even more so. But they do one good thing, which is if they mention it, people care about it. They kind of like workshop different ideas in small ways, but by the time it hits you and an RNC, it has become a thing. So I think I can have an exterminator and it not be gender specific and be fine with it. I think a lot of voters still care about that. And I only say that because the Republican Party does a good job of bringing up subjects that get them votes.
I think that's true. They've always been very savvy when it comes to wedge issues. But I do think they have lost their way a bit, Andrew.
They're fucked. This is lame ass shit, man.
No, I really think it is. I really think it is the Twitter feedback loop, where it used to be focus grouping and whatever, but now it's like, no, you guys are really talking about nothing. This is just really nothing. And I'm not saying that flag burning was a more valid topic, but I felt like some of those, at least, they were figuring out things that people reacted to in the voting demographic. I'm not sure any of these issues are. I mean, we saw them get smoked during the midterms, running out the same playbook.
Yep.
And like, all right, Tobias Harris.
Oh, yo, come on, New York native catching strays. God damn it,
dude! It's Harris season.
It is Harris. We're Harris pilled up in here. Yeah, I mean, I do think they're running out of tricks, and the Marjorie Taylor Greens are kind of running out of ammo, and Biden's age was the thing, and to calling him a pedophile was the thing that kind of worked, which is super ironic. Obviously, it's so funny. Like, the one feeling I have in my head as I'm going through, we're all starting this marathon of the next few months, is like, we're making it too complicated. It's like, to your point, like, let's not confuse everything. Your candidate told us to inject bleach and sunshine into our veins. He thinks windmills give us cancer. He's on a different planet. Biden being old is on kind of in our realm of relativity. But now that you take that off the table, I think they're kind of fucked.
I mean, personally, I've thought that Trump is an abysmal candidate.
He's worst old, ever.
He's demented.
Well, the worms have not eaten his brain, as far as we know. He is not a cannibal, as far as we know.
He attempted to overthrow the U.S. government.
That thing, right? It's just like when the reporter asked J.D. Vance, it's like, well, are you afraid of what happened to Mike Pence might happen to you? It's like, well, I don't think Pence was ever scared. It's like, not the point. They showed up wanting to hang his sitting vice president because of the one thing he did that was procedural. It's like, he kind of flipped everything, and the one thing he was tasked to do was just to acknowledge the will of the people. He did, and they wanted to hang him. J.D. Vance is like, well, when you put it that way. Talk about eulogies.
Well, yeah. Like, what happened to his last vice president?
Yeah. Why isn't he running? Trump is a moron, man. He's the dumbest guy I've ever seen with a microphone in front of him.
I mean, he's an incredible entertainer. He's really funny. Yep. But a lot of his competence is not the word. It's not the right word.
Yeah.
A lot of his appeal was when juxtaposed next to a husk of a man.
The ghost.
The hologram of the noble statesman, Joe Biden, who dedicated his life to this country.
Named after a rapper, Fat Joe. Did you know that?
The embittered shell of
ISO Joe.
Biden. Yeah. ISO Joe. Yo, dude. The day when it's like, if I get sick, I might drop out. It's like within 45 minutes, I have COVID.
Yeah. ISO Joe. How come we haven't seen him? It's like, well, because
I did want him to step down, or not seek re-election. I keep missaying that, But I also did enjoy his bumbling humiliation. I felt like it was richly deserved. And it's kind of sad to think that he will go down as a good guy who was just a, feeble-minded, cotton-minded Joe at the end. I'm like, no, he wasn't. He was a real shitty dude. But I kind of liked him staggering onwards in this quest to become president despite being completely addled. But we're over that. The Biden moment is done. We're in our brat summer.
I think we're over old dudes in politics, right? I think unless Trump wins. Well, which he might. Like, when I say the Sixers were the better team, but the Knicks won, probability is probability. I think the GOP is going to get smushed. Is it 90-10? Is it 80-20? I think around 75-25. So 25%, you got to keep it open. So it's not like black or white. But we're
More
over
of a gray maestro.
I know. It's just like, of course the Knicks could have won that series. It was kind of like 60-40. 40 is like, I would not bet $20 on 40%. But it's still an underdog. I don't know.
Here's what I want to ask you, Andrew.
Yeah.
So, from my understanding, there may be some kind of primary, whether this happens at the DNC convention, maybe some other context. Mm-hmm. But Harris, when she thanked Joe for his service to this country, said, I look forward to earning this nomination, whatever language she employed.
Yeah.
She didn't say, I'm the nominee. She said, winning this nomination, earning this nomination. So there were rumors that Elizabeth Warren was going to throw her.
Oh, God. Yeah. Bernie Sanders, Manchin coming back from the dead. I mean, the hologram of Joe Manchin.
Pocahontas was going to
Yeah, I was like, please, Pelosi, I just don't need to see. It was like, Pelosi's such a mastermind. I'm like, can we get the fuck away from these people?
I know in my bones, Andrew, that Hillary's like, do we got one last run in us?
She's like Dwight Howard being like photoshopping jerseys onto herself. I'm still available, guys.
We got one more, kind of rolling your neck, limbering up a little bit, like one last game.
Putting on that Superman cape, getting that prop phone booth. Can we just get rid of these old ass politicians? Respect to these lives lived. Bernie Sanders has been a senator for longer than Obi Toppin's been an NBA player. That's a fucking long time. Okay, can we just flip it over a little bit?
You're an electoral procedure buff. Can you explain to us how this is going to work? It's gonna be, and I can say this, and you cannot say this, but it's gonna be an Asian fire drill, and that's just when people switch seats in a car. It's harmless. It's a little tomfoolery, as they say, but it's gonna be fast and loose because it has to be fast and loose. But I don't believe decorum and procedure matters here. When I watch Law and Order on TV, I want Stabler to go through the process. This is what I enjoy. But at this point, Donald Trump has taken a poop in our clean bathroom already. Fuck it. Everyone just take a shit in my bathroom. So I'm not an electoral procedure buff like you are. But I do believe that Harris, not speaking about Tobias, Harris needs to prove that they're a winner. She needs to prove that people will vote for her. And I think that the Democratic Party basically bullied us into Hillary, bullied us into Biden, and are now going to bully us into Harris. And I understand that the party machinery is repelled by the idea of the people having a choice. They hate it. That's who they are. If we want to talk about the Republicans being fascist or whatever, the Democrats are careerist and corporate.
But
that's their deal.
are we omitting the never Trumpers here? Like the Republican Party, many of them thought they were bullied into Donald Trump.
But they weren't, though, because Donald Trump was an outsider. They may not have liked
They
him.
were more
but
so
Donald,
because
but Donald,
he was an outsider.
I'm saying Donald Trump. I mean, they were bullied in by the will of the people. If that's the reverse
But not
of this.
even, right? Like, it's hard to tell because polls are weird and primaries kind of are strange. But, like, Hillary beat Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was a very weak kind of candidate, right? Like, we didn't want him either.
I mean, those Hillary beating Bernie was very sus. Biden beating Bernie was sus. And also, so many people didn't run for office against those.
Well, this is just what politics is, right? This is not a tournament. This is not March Madness. There's ways, like there's basketball players who are as good, as Paul George talks about on his pod, that are as good as any starter, but they just don't have a political lane to get minutes.
This is true, but whatever you want to say about the Republicans, they ran 12 people out in their primary, and Trump won. I mean, maybe he benefited from name recognition, but he won. They ran 12 candidates. It wasn't, it's some schmuck you've never heard of going against Joe Biden.
It was Jeb Bush versus the field, and then, but we were like, as we were watching, I think we potted about it. We're like, Jeb fucking Bush over here? No one wants this. You think we want it, but we don't.
Oh, no doubt about that. But I just mean they had 12 candidates. They ran a bunch of debates. There were a dozen people on stage, and Trump was the outsider. You had people like Lindsey Graham who were feverishly anti-Trump. The establishment was anti-Trump.
Did Jeff Flake run? I think Jeff Flake was one in there, yeah.
I'm saying Trump won the nominee and then became president based on voter enthusiasm.
Sure. Sure. His path to success was not clean.
But it was earned. That's all I'm saying.
What?
Trump earned that nomination because he was an outsider. He beat everyone else in the field. That's all I'm saying. This is not even giving him praise. It just means you knew that Republicans were willing to vote for Donald fucking Trump because he went out and won the nomination. And that's my concern about Harris, was that Harris didn't even make it to Iowa. Harris's campaign floundered and collapsed before Iowa, if I remember correctly. It went nowhere. It was a completely stillborn campaign. And this is what gives me a bit of Hillary flashbacks, was that it was clear that Hillary was deeply unpopular and not a particularly electable candidate. I know she still won the popular vote, but I'm just concerned that Harris hasn't really proven that people will go into a ballot box and vote for her.
She's got weaknesses. She's Asian and a woman, so there's rumors that she's just gonna, her VP nomination is gonna be like the most basic white dude, respect to basic white dudes, but just like uncontroversial in their prototype. Yeah, there's a challenge there. I think an Asian black woman is going to be difficult, but at the same time, like, who else you got? Like, this is AOC's point. Like, Beto O'Rourke, Gavin Newsom has not really expressed any desire to do this. He probably isn't as strong as Kamala Harris. And I mentioned the AOC rant a bit. She made some really good points. Like, she was not wrong. I kind of agreed with her. She was like, our best chance is to stick with this old guy. It's not perfect, but it's our best chance. And I'm like, that's valid. I can accept that. I'd rather have Kamala Harris, but who would you envision over her at this point?
Well, I mean, I don't really know why AOC decided to hitch her wagon to an absolute dead end.
Well, she explains it, right? Like,
but I mean, it had to be to try to get some political concessions by showing loyalty. I just mean, it's implausible that she thought that Joe Biden was going to keep riding this out.
Well, she explains it for an hour, right? Like, she was like, I'm going to talk about stuff that's boring, about the guts of our government. Come with me, and She made some good points. She was like, this has to happen. This, we don't talk about this. This has to happen. This is illegal. This is kind of legal. You know, like, it was an interesting support. In the end, she's like, I'm Team Kamala Harris. Like, our country's facing imminent disaster. And I believe that. Like, when Trump tries to overthrow the government and says he's going to, like, execute his political enemies, like, it is code red.
I don't trust Trump, honestly.
I know. Yeah, that too. He might be like, oh, I just like being here. That was just jokes.
Trump told us, he insisted that he was going to lock up Hillary Clinton, and he didn't do it. I do not believe a word that guy
Make
says.
Mexico pay for the wall. He didn't. He lost that steam.
I was a one-issue voter, locking up Hillary Clinton. He did not make good on that promise.
He did not. But, you know, you got to take everyone by their word. You got to vote by what they say, right?
It was the Unification Party incarcerating Hillary.
I know. These people being like, I'm moving to Italy. I'm just like,
Hillary's walking around free, man.
yeah, I'm still powerful. Where do the Clintons live at this point? Are they still in Westchester?
I think so.
That's crazy. I drove by that house once. It's a nice house. It's not extraordinarily nice, but
What's
it's a nice house.
the area called again?
It's not Poughkeepsie, is it?
No, it's got another name. Is Chappaqua? Does that sound right?
Chappaqua. New York adjacent. I call all that upstate. This is upstate, man.
I feel like the Knicks have a practice facility there somewhere.
Yeah, I think Jalen Brunson lives in their basement. You know, he's a ethical king.
But my point about Harris was that I just wish there was a way to say, do a mini primary. Like, hey, 4 voters are coming out. We're going to do 2 debates, and we're going to do a national election. Like, is that totally off the table? That
I'm
doing
with
like
you.
a primary to vote them in.
It
And
might
I
be
only
too
say
tight.
this.
It might be too tight.
It could be, but I only say this because I think you want to roust up some voter enthusiasm, and I think
Rick
having
Rouse.
a spirited Riz off would make that happen.
The dreaded reverse Riz. Ooh.
She's mogging.
Oh no, she's reverse mogging.
But I think the people who are like, no, it's Harris. It's Harris. Hey, wait, I thought the thing was saving democracy, right? Like getting the strongest candidate, the one that's going to win. Mm-hmm. And now people are like, well, no, you can't take it away from her. She is the one who got the votes. I'm like, no, she didn't. She was vice president. She was not. She did not win the nomination. People did not vote for her to be president. Like, she did not win this in any democratic sense. She is in a position that if Joe Biden stepped down, she would become president. That's what people voted for as the ticket. They did not vote for her as the presidential candidate. I'm only saying, if beating Donald Trump and saving democracy is what's on the table here, then you should have the strongest candidate, and it shouldn't be about what you think is fair to Kamala Harris. I
hear that. As a worldview, I agree with that. In this situation, I'm just like, you don't have to share the ball. Like, play. I always want the Democrats, ever since Trump showed up, to like play kind of dirty. Just be like, nah, fuck you a little bit, and this might be an example of that, where in my heart, I think there should be kind of like, I should see the selection of vegetables. I'm always going to buy the bok choy, man. Let's just like load up on bok choy. I think I just want them to be a little like aggressive and cutthroat, pace, 7 seconds or less, like gamify this a little
wouldn't
bit.
that be?
No, I don't
think. Let's do a mini thing. Who's running?
Showing weakness, debating the one that you're pushing, and giving them an opportunity, like Team USA, to play the WNBA All-Stars is like not a wise decision. It's just like, no, put them behind glass. Do something else, because you don't want to test this, because this is all about aura.
I hear that idea, except that she's also a paper tiger. Now,
She's
paper
not,
tiger,
right? Like,
she has never won an election on a national level
But we're past that. Like, Trump donated to her campaign, in 2011? Like, people are trying to use that as a gotcha. It's been, many things have changed. Many fucking things have changed. And I think the original candidate of Kamala Harris that we saw wasn't the weakest one, but was surely not the one we wanted, is totally different than the one we see now. Same with Joe Biden, same with Donald Trump.
I don't view her as a particularly weak candidate or anything. I mean, I think she'll benefit from lowered expectations because everyone just views her as like the pillhead who talks about falling out of a coconut tree.
Which will work to her advantage.
In reality, she's a good debater. She's smart.
She's a prosecutor.
She can. I'm saying she will be far more capable, especially when compared to a frothing madman like Donald Trump. I'm just saying. I think you can't turn this into the 2024 Eastern Conference.
Why not? Because the NBA didn't get what they want because it's a vacated championship. But, ideally, they would want the Celtics to do it. This is their entire script.
I'm just concerned that she's a loser.
Yo, that's a valid concern. But I'm not trying to smoke weed with her. I just want her to be president. None of these motherfuckers are cool.
No, I'm not. I think she's actually might be a fun hang. Like, it's me, you, Montel Jordan, her. We're gonna go.
Montel Jordan's other girlfriend, right?
Like Del the Funky Homo Sapien.
Montel Williams, yeah.
Oh, Montel Williams.
Del the Funky Homo Sapien. God damn.
It's like the Hobo Junction versus Hyro Battle. Kamala's here. Like, we're getting like real Bay Area 90s. I think she'd be a fun hang in that regard. She's got some perk 30s. But she might be a loser in terms of electorally, that people just don't want to vote for her. I think I understand your idea of you're building the aura. She's the one you unify before. Boom. But I'm like, but what if people won't vote for her? That's all.
Yeah, I agree. But in the in an elimination game, in the fourth quarter, it's not time to try new players out. It's like, a Deuce, I think you got this, man. It's like, no, you have Jalen Brunson. Go with Jalen Brunson. It's like, but Deuce has been hitting shots in practice. It's like, not the time. Maybe tomorrow in the first quarter, but we're running out of clock here. And that's kind of my feeling.
She's just so arbitrary.
But isn't politics arbitrary? I hate them all. I do not want to hang out with Kendrick Lamar or Kamala Harris. But they have a specific function that they're good at. Just do it. I think we're complicating it too much. We're not supposed to like them.
I'm not saying there's a plethora of other great candidates. I just like the idea of a little bit of spirited competition, an old-fashioned Rizzoff.
Like West Side Story, like the rat battle going on in my house, but in my backyard. Yeah, I hear that, and that is not a bad or incorrect thought to have. I just think there's little time left, and the results, if Kamala Harris is broken by Joe Manchin, this whole thing is fucked. Why even chance it?
I see people saying, America, if she doesn't win, it's a indictment of America being a sexist, racist country.
No.
They won't vote for a black woman for president. I'm like, well, look, it is preposterous that we have not had a woman president. That's just insane.
I agree.
We can talk about how this has reached this point and how this company or this country had deep inequalities and still does. We can talk about that. It is lunacy that we have not had a woman president. That's fucking crazy.
I thought Geraldine Ferraro was gonna kind of bust the gates open a little bit, and that was lifetimes ago.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. And the only woman who has actually been on the ballot, in the battle box, as Joe Biden puts it.
One time I asked.
The wife of a former president. Like, it's real fucked up.
One time I asked my primary care doctor, he pushed me. He's like, you need a therapist, buddy. You've been a Knicks fan for too long. Like, your body's good, your brain, you're a sad dude in your Knicks shorts, you know?
Like, your body is cock diesel.
Full of microplastics in the balls area. But otherwise, like everyone else.
I've inspected everyone's balls and they're jam-packed.
But he was out. He was like, I have a list of therapists. Do you have any requests regarding age, vibe, someone you're most comfortable with? And I was like, please let it be a woman, because men are just too stupid. I am stupid. I need someone to teach me how to do something. And like seeing another bro in there being like, dude, I'm sad. It's like, well, stop watching Knicks games. I'm like, done. Yeah, to your point, I'm like, how has there not been a woman president in our lifetime? This was started when we were really young, this discussion. There's not even been like a women's head coach in the NBA yet, which is like super odd.
But yeah, it is outrageous. Like, so I don't believe, though, that America won't vote for a woman. I believe there are obstacles and barriers and all these, social constraints that have created a situation in which we have not had a woman president. But I don't believe that America is like so fundamentally sexist they won't put a woman in charge. I just don't believe that. Like that.
Oh, I think Kamala's going to win.
Yeah, I do too. I just don't believe that America is like so depraved that they're like, a woman president? No way. We won't do it. What if she's on her period and nukes someone? It's like, come on, man. I just don't believe that America still thinks like that.
I don't.
That's not to say that there aren't sexist and there aren't sexist barriers, but of course there are. I just don't think that America's like that far gone in that way, because America also voted for Obama twice, and that was recently. So I think there are absolutely sexists and racists who won't vote for Harris because of who she is, in terms of like her gender and her race, but they weren't going to vote for a Democrat anyway.
Yeah, this exercise is kind of simple when you mention archetypes or identities. She's someone we've never seen as a president, but she's running against a criminal who's a real estate fraudster from Manhattan.
Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be, Andrew.
Exactly. It's just
like maybe a fraudster from Manhattan? Tell me more.
It's like one candidate's a motherfucker and the other candidate is someone we've never seen win this job. I'm going to go with the new thing. Trump is such a bad candidate. I don't know how to describe it. It seems redundant. It's just like this guy thinks he has a finite number of heartbeats, so he doesn't work out, which is incredible. That's my favorite Trumpism. But like, he is stupid to a point where like, I don't even trust him to get an Uber for the crew.
Well, the guy survives one assassination attempt. Bloodied.
It's a good photo.
Great photo. He's out there fist pumping. Like, this man, he might be God. In fact, a deity, a higher power. Then here he is during the convention, like sleeping while his son gives a speech.
I know.
Like, he's invincible. Yeah. This guy is he's not even mortal. He's just over there like snoring and dozing off.
Get Amber Rose on stage. And I kind of believe the maniac or the morons who are like, it's CNN's fault, it's the New York Times fault. They're just talking about how there's infighting in the Democratic Party. I'm like, you have a point, because there's comedic gold on the other side. Like, the MAGA thing is just like extremely fruitful. You guys eat those lemons from your backyard. They're okay. They won't put lemon rinds in your balls.
I'm thinking about becoming a Biden dead ender now.
Oh, I love this.
Like we're not out of it yet. Still in the game, boys.
I mean, someone was really funny. I forget who, our friend who posted this on Twitter was like, guys, there's a chance Biden won't even remember that he stepped down. Like, he's going to wake up on Monday and be like, all right, what's the next step, fellas?
Yeah, did they do the classic deathbed will move on him? Like someone just typed up the doc.
Dude, I was...
Joe, wake up. Yeah, just sign here. It's a delivery of hard candies. So we got some Beecher's butternuts. You have to sign for them.
Yo, butterscotch gets a bad rep, man. Like, Werther's stand up. Werther's Nation stand up. Because it's not the worst candy.
Some spiral peppermints.
He just shows up in a leather.
Waiting outside. You just gotta put your John Hancock here.
In a brown and tan leather. Werther's. I thought
Was it that your boy Akinyele said? Like Herbie and hand you a cock?
Where is Akinyele? Is he? Everyone's trying to make a comeback, man. I saw Smith & Wesson played a stoop in Bed-Stuy, I think, like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I got one for you. Akinyele, dead or alive?
There you go. Yo, and to that,
Him and Chubb Rock are somewhere right now.
oh god damn, your Chubb Rock fascination.
No
Him
one
and Dorian
can
Finney-Smith.
say where they are.
with Danny Ainge. The funniest thing that could happen, not funny, life is a gift to everybody. I am grateful to be alive. I want everyone to live, including Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
Who are you about to kill?
Well, what if a hacker got to the hologram of Joe Biden between now and November 6th? And we spent a good chunk of that time discussing the statesman, the great politician, a man, a father who gave his life to our country. Like that
The architect of the iconic crime bill.
I mean, people actually like that, which is crazy. That like works in his favor, because if you look at MAGA, their whole thing is like cracking down on crime. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are not the right opponents for this MAGA movement for that reason. It's like, we need more policing. It's like, well, you got a cop right here. It's like, ooh, all right, Amber Rose, do your thing. But imagine eulogizing Biden during this run up to the electoral. Is this going to be, that would be the craziest. And he's just chilling with Akinyele.
Yeah, I feel like they need to stop talking about him.
It's going to happen. I mean,
Oh, of course.
yo, the shooting feels like so long ago, man. When my friends were texting me being like, it's over, I'm like, first of all, fatalist Democrats are the worst dudes to talk to. And then second of all, I'm like, we're going to forget this in a week. Kind of totally forgotten, at least in personally speaking. I'm just like, a lot of shit has happened in between. Like, do we still talk about RJ Barrett?
Right. I have a question for you on this exact topic. So I remember my mom was talking about when she was growing up. Little girl in a rural area. And she's like, the highlight of the day was when the mail would arrive.
Yo, I lived through
Here
that.
comes the mailman. He's pulling up in his truck, and he's like, here's a Sears catalog and an electricity bill. And they're like, wow. Have our brains been reconfigured? Because I'm agreeing with you. It's like, if this was 30 years ago and someone shot the president, it would just be the only story that we cared about for months on end. I mean, I think it was Willie Stalley on Twitter was talking about Jose Canseco with the ball bouncing off his head. It's like, that's kind of all we cared about for like a year.
Yo, his finger fell off in a poker game. That dude is... Get him in the White House. Right, because remember, it's like, you, sir, are no John F. Kennedy.
No, we talked about that for like a decade. That was like
Dan
the biggest
Quayle,
deal.
The name Dan Quayle comes up and everyone's like, stupid.
It's like Lloyd Benson ethered him.
Yeah. Posterized.
Mogged.
I mean, Michael Jordan hitting like a mid-range jumper ends up like being the discussion for 20 years. His switching hands for a layup, we're still kind of obsessed over it, but like only the old heads, right? Like, and I think we're smarter for it. I think our brains are better. Obviously, there's always going to be a static proportion of the population who's like super annoying, super weird, super dumb. I'm in there. Just lump me right in there. You can put me in there. That's where I live.
The silent generation.
That's right. But I fall for all these tricks. I'm not above it. I'm not better than this, but I enjoy it. I like the speed of it. It makes me feel fucking alive, man. But there's a time to do nothing when teams rebuild. I'm like, stack picks, Detroit Pistons, do not sign Tobias Harris. And then there's a time to do something. Like, the Knicks had to do something. The Democrats had to do something. And I have to switch gears on Twitter every 5 minutes or else I'm going to fall asleep watching my son give a rousing speech.
I was talking to my dad. He's like, which one of those moron sons gave the worst speech you've ever heard?
Your dad's on point there, man.
I'll have to check that out.
Give me a minute on that. Amber Rose, Hulk Hogan. It was kind of fun, right?
I missed most of it, I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I did see the Hulkster, and as a little Hulkamaniac eating my vitamins, I was glad to see him still able to rip his shirt off.
Yeah, man. I loved it because obviously I want only white players to sign with the Celtics and Jazz. I only want like showboaters to sign with the Lakers. I only want Timberland out dogs to sign with the Knicks. And Donald Trump's RNC was so distinctly his, right? He had like an adult worker and the Hulkster. Like, I gotta give him kind of a golf clap for that. He should have had John De Leon. Like, where's Lee Trevino? Is he still alive?
Lee Trevino?
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you.
I mean, do we know if Tiger Woods is a Democrat or Republican?
My vibes are that he's a centrist.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, he's got an Asian mom.
I feel like he would vote for Republicans, but maybe not Trump.
I vibe with that. Yes, I agree. I mean,
This
he
is based on nothing.
Well, he's a extremely rich man. He has $1 billion. So automatically, I think that makes you kind of a fiscal conservative. And that probably trickles over into spiritual conservatism. Like, I'm not a Mayor Pete dude by any means, but he keeps it simple. And when he was on HBO Max talking about why Zuck is, supporting, why Elon is into Trump, he's just like, it's just money. They're rich and they get to keep their money. That's all.
We absolutely need to keep Mayor Pete away from this vice presidential.
You're
nomination.
anti-Mayor Pete. What's up? I mean, I don't find him that. Well, I'm sorry to run over you. Go ahead.
I just don't think we should have a CIA plant there because
A rat?
he's such a rat, man. He's such a little industry plant.
But isn't he a rat for someone like Kamala Harris? Like, aren't we in the world of rats? I'm not trying to exterminate them. They're trying to exterminate me. I'm trapped here in my house with them.
I don't even know who's being positioned as potential vice president. I am sure, as you mentioned, it'll be like a white dude.
It has to be.
If it's Josh Shapiro, I'm not voting for the ticket. If it's Mayor Pete, I'll be disgusted, but I guess I'll vote for it.
You don't have to vote for a Democrat or Republican. Like, I have many friends who are into politics who don't vote for those parties. Like, you don't have to vote for Kamala Harris. I
vote
will
for
be, but
Jill Stein.
it can't be a woman. I wish it was. I wish it was like a big two.
Oh! I thought you said as an alternative to voting. For
Oh no, I did. Is Jill Stein gonna last? Is she on the ballot?
Unclear.
Let's get some brain-eating worms up in here.
Not sure if she's actually on the Should we talk about basketball a little bit here?
Always.
So, we got the interns were wildly gesturing. But, it was a momentous week for politics, so we ran over. Our cup runneth over, Andrew.
Shit's funny.
Much like full of balls filled with plastic. So this was not a big week for the WNBA, but fortunately, we had other kinds of basketball. So the WNBA All-Star Game took place on Saturday. Saturday, right? Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah.
And had a much higher elevated stature this year due to the league's surging popularity and also in somewhat in the format that they were using. So they had the women's Olympic team going against basically the Olympic snubs, which included a lot of younger players. So on one
Really
side,
good players.
yeah, exactly. So on one side, you had players like Caitlin Clark, you had players like Angel Reese, you had Arike
Jones. Say it.
and
Say it.
Jonquel Jones.
Say Arika's name.
Ogun,
Say Arika's name.
Ogun Bawale.
Agumbawale. I think. It's
yeah.
hard, man.
Ogun Bawale. I think that's
Yeah.
correct.
Baller. She's just a baller.
Bucket.
Yeah.
And then the other one had goats. The 65-year-old Diana Taurasi. You had Breanna Stewart.
Asia Wilson.
You had Asia Wilson. Like some
Chelsea Gray. The greatest.
MVP,
Kelsey Plum,
MVP
right.
run-up.
Brittany Griner.
Great,
Shout
great,
out to Brittany Griner. Yeah.
yeah, great players, Hall of Famers. So, game was very fun, hyper competitive. The team WNBA, as they call the snub team, got the win, pretty handily, even though it got sort of close at the end. But for the most part, it was a very competitive game. The teams were playing hard. Afterwards, you saw Taurasi bringing together the Olympic team and kind of chewing them out a little bit at the end.
She does it. She's so funny.
Oh.
Right. She always
Which is-
does that.
Which is also the remarkable following an All-Star game. Get in here.
It was
It's an
embarrassing though, and we were all rooting for
I
that
agree.
outcome, right? Yeah.
So you can talk about the game itself, but I also want to hear how you think this compares to like the men's game and those inevitable discussions that we're going to have.
I mean, I don't like the men's All-Star game, but I get it, right? It's why superstars don't want to do the slam dunk competition. It's why the Democrats should not have debates for Kamala Harris. It's like LeBron James is like, I don't want to look like I'm trying necessarily and like get beat again. It's like, why would I do that? There's nothing at stake here. But the WNBA, the wrinkle of the controversy surrounding the USA national team with the Olympics coming up, playing the players that were mentioned in this controversy, like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, like that's amazing. And there's I think the NBA has reached a level where like these guys are walking, talking companies, corporations that like you don't put yourself at risk when you don't have to. But the WNBA is dealing with like a growing kind of upstart, like startup, right? Like this, it's finally catching fire. And I think having a competitive game this year makes sense. I don't expect it to be competitive next year.
I'm wondering if the structure is the wrong word. The aesthetic differences in the men's game and the women's game make it less likely that the WNBA All-Star Game will disintegrate into tomfoolery. For one, they don't jam.
There's
They're
no
not
vertical
slam
space.
jamming out there.
Right.
There's only so many ways you can do a fun layup. Like, looks like Caitlin Clark's got a breakaway. What's she gonna do? It's like, well, it's a layup.
Yeah,
like
there's-
the in-game dunking and lobs is such a part of the men's All-Star Game. But one
Although-
other thing.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You know, if everyone stood back and Angel Reese was like, I'm going to 360 dunk this, it could be incredible, right? If everyone's like, go for it.
I mean, true. I'm just saying that's such a part of All-Star games. It's like T-Mac's going to dunk it off the backboard. People are going to throw lobs. Oh, it's a 360. It's a windmill. All these things are just part of the All-Star game. But the biggest reason is that, this is a pet theory, is that it's impossible to defend in the men's All-Star game because they take so many threes. Last game, I counted them up. It took over 170 combined threes.
Yeah.
That leads to long rebounds. It leads to outlet passes, guys chucking from way beyond the line. You can't defend that. It lends itself to a hyper-scattered game with the ball bouncing around, one kick out, someone chucking. You can't defend. It's impossible. So the women's game, because it still has the same amount of shooting on the court, let's say, as 2010, a lot of teams just go out there and don't have three-point shooters. That the women's game does not have that kind of chucking. I think they combined for about 60 or 70 threes, which is like a typical game. It's much easier to keep a game looking regular and locked in a half court when you aren't chucking up a zillion threes. That's kind of my personal sort of theory on why the men's game has fallen apart so badly lately. And that could change as three-point shooting in the women's game becomes better and better and better and better. That could happen. And in 5 years, you just have, the WNBA All-Stars coming across half court and like heaving up threes, and then the game sucks. It could totally happen the same way.
And all that's right. And I'm not with Silver on this. I could give a fuck about the All-Star game. I don't think the DNA of this game itself, the standalone game, is something I think about that much. Do it, don't do it, I don't care. Name the All-Stars, everyone go on vacation. I know Silver wants to make money. I know the WNBA wants to showcase their players, but this All-Star game this year for the WNBA, I felt like had a gravity to it. And it was because there was beef, right? Like, not only was Caitlin Clark the most popular player in the WNBA, aside from Asia Wilson, not only was she left off, Cheryl Reeve, the coach of the national team, talk some shit. There was Reese and Clark, and Reese Nation, I think, are being used as patsies here. But there was that beef. That kind of dissolved during the game. We kind of got to see them be like, they actually like each other. Like, this beef is just kind of on our own time. And
the broadcast was crazy too. The amount of just discussion of Caitlin Clark. I'm like, come on.
Yeah. And they're building something successfully, right? Like, these are the cultural kind of wars they want. Race, generational, national, pride. All these things are unsolvable, and you want them flowing through your entertainment world. And the national team were villains. It was awesome. You saw our favorite players, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, were playing against the GOATs, the gatekeepers, the people shaking their fists at clouds. Get off my lawn, right? And it was so delicious watching the Caitlin Clark kind of orchestrating this victory, being picked up in the half court and backcourt, full court pressure to start the game. Like, there was pride on the line, and that's
in that second half, they came out and the Olympic team doubled Caitlin Clark off the inbounds.
Incredible. And our buddy Pablo always says it's like, it is always fascinating to watch a sporting event when humiliation is on the line. Like, it's great. Boxing, prize fighting, this stuff. And
I think that's why people love this podcast so much.
I'm always humiliated.
I'm always being humiliated by the cock diesel, Andrew Quo.
Listen, I have a little rat with little headphones and a little mic right next to me, so I'm in my own world.
But one thing about the WNBA that I think this is kind of self-evident, but maybe we haven't discussed it, is that I think the moment right now where you have people who love these vestiges of the 90s, the race wars, the not taking too many threes, the all-star game that is played with grave seriousness, but it also is tied to this vector of women's sports and being progressive and equality. And it's a really cool combination where you basically have like the Jordan originalists version of basketball tied into progressive politics and ideas and a very forward-thinking league in those ways. And this balance, it just plays out in very strange ways where you have some people who are just like, yeah, they aren't really good. They're smoking layups. I don't like it. But then you have other people who are like super into Caitlin Clark but don't like the sport itself. Like the dynamics of the NBA, of the WNBA, are really delightful right now in that way.
Yeah, it gets people heated. There is an endless discussion everywhere you look. And a lot of it is like, it's hard to look in the mirror, right? It's just like, we're all men are sexist a little bit. Like, and we have to confront that. And how do we get better, be better fans, be better at talking about politics and basketball? Like, this is all good. And we may make missteps every now and then, but like the end product is going to be a better version of all of this.
Yeah, it's almost some Kamala Harris shit.
Dude, fascinating.
Like, we're going to have a black woman president, but she's a cop. It's like, ooh, how does this make me feel?
How does this work? Right. It's like, yeah.
Is this progressive or is this deeply conservative and regressive? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a girl dad with a pickup truck, and my girl should play in the NBA, but marry a dude and give me grandkids, you know, like.
I'm a cat dad.
Yeah, you know? And like, shout out to this collection of NBA stars. They're all fascinating, man. Like, of course, Stewart and Wilson, who are the two best, are kind of by the books, Jalen Brunson-wise. But Taurasi is awesome. Kelsey Plum is amazing. Like, even Ionescu kind of talks some shit. And then, obviously, you have Brittany Griner, who is, like, a fascinating human being on this planet. I don't know. This collection of stars is really interesting.
It was a great group. I thought the same thing. It's like, when I was watching, I was like, oh, there's Brittany Griner. She's got a story to tell.
Dude, and it's like, yeah, all of a sudden, Brittany Griner's hitting layups, and I'm like, oh, we haven't even talked about her. Holy, she's here playing a game.
Right, like,
that's incredible.
Like, Taurasi, goated. Here, you know.
For real, goated, right? Like, the GOAT, probably. Cheryl Swoops, I don't know, like, but Taurasi, someone was like, yeah, is she, like, I don't know. Some people are saying they didn't market her well in her career. It's like, Taurasi was kind of thrilling, and the NBA didn't really prop her up. WNBA didn't prop her up the right way.
That may be true. It's a different time as well, though.
For sure.
And what I mean is, I've pushed this theory repeatedly, but the idea that Steph Curry and Kyrie, their version of basketball that was not reliant on jamming on people or incredible, not being the biggest guy on the court, like
right.
This distinctly modern, perimeter-oriented, skills-oriented, footwork, ball handling, pulling threes off the dribble, was something that men embraced in the last, let's say, 15 years or so, as being, you know, this incredible part of the game that's even more exciting than great dunks. That this is really what the modern game is about. And the trickle-down effect to the WNBA, it just wasn't there yet.
For sure.
And I think people were still interpreting the changes in the men's game. And now we can look and say, oh, like Arike, she's filthy. Look at that. Boom, 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 boom. She's out there playing like, you know,
that was
DeRozan.
crazy.
She's
that
playing like
crazy.
Kobe, you know? And I think we now have this interpretation of what amazing basketball looks like, and we can apply it to the WNBA in a way that maybe we weren't as capable of doing in Taurasi's prime.
Yeah, and you know, Caitlin Clark shot 0 for 7 from 3, 2 for 9 from the field, but had her fingerprints all over that game. She broke the double team, she broke the press, she had 10 assists, and she was like a good ambassador for her league. She was like hamming it up with some players who were sitting courtside. What's up with your boy Sudeikis? Is he trying to like? Is he getting this WNBA clout? Is he the one?
Like, dude, she's not gonna let you smash.
I mean, not even that. Like, I've never loved his movies. I thought they were like kind of gross out movies a little bit in thematically, but like, and I don't like his feel good Apple show. That is like The Bear before The Bear, but he is the face of celebrity WNBA. I mean, Aubrey Plaza was courtside. I wanted them to get some real heads there. Like, where was Fat Joe?
Well, and like I don't really think Jason Sudeikis is attempting to smash,
No.
but I like the idea that what if this whole thing was him just desperate to smash?
I mean, he's a heartbroken guy publicly.
No, that's what I mean. He's
all
like, no, I just have this incredible crush on Caitlin Clark, so I go to all of her games and travel around watching her.
not good. That's not good.
I'm in the fan zone.
Yeah. I'm courtside. Oh, this could be a good beginning of an A24 stalker movie. Set in the backdrop of the WNBA.
Sudeikis in the fan zone.
He has a crush. He's a fan, and he's also an assassin
Yeah,
of hearts.
I don't think he's doing anything wrong here, and this is not even like the him trying to smash joke. That's over. I've moved beyond.
You moved on. You've matured since then. You're not the same candidate you were 50 seconds ago.
That was a fan zone moment. I'm over that. That was the old me.
Yeah. We
I'm
can't live by
reformed.
in our past, Ben,
Don't judge me
for the things I've done.
on things I said years ago.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that he is a huge clout demon.
He
But
is.
he
though.
genuinely may just be like, yeah, I'm just really into women's basketball. I think that's
that's
so
more the
cool.
truth. Right.
And I'm a fan of Caitlyn, and I but he's always on TV being like, hey, it's the fan zone with Jason Sudeikis. Like, you're a baller. I've played with him before. He's a bucket. He can hoop, no doubt. But it's weird that like the WNBA is having this explosion in popularity with all these amazing plot lines, and it's like Sudeikis is there the whole time.
Jaylen Brown, Sudeikis, Aubrey Plaza. Shout out to Aubrey Plaza, hilarious. But
Also, the fact that she blew out her ACL playing Knockout.
yeah, was wearing sunglasses, Ray-Ban. I mean, funny. She should have been wearing Apple Vision Pro, but Sudeikis. Yeah, I don't know. I think the surrounding this game with the right celebrities is also a strategy that is important. I don't know. I don't give a fuck. I'm interested in WNBA now. They've got me. They've captured my attention. But to make this thing really explode, everything needs ambassadors, right? So I don't know. I wonder when that's going to cross over.
Have you been to a WNBA game in the last few years?
No, not since the Madison Square Garden Liberty. But I don't go to many games. Why? What am I missing? It's good. No, we've talked about this, right?
Yeah. I was just curious because I think what is most impressive about to me is that it's good on TV. It's fun. The storylines are good. The in-person product is great. It really does work. And I think the development of the game, what I was referring to earlier, like the amount of long-range shooting, the accuracy, the ball movement, the intricate plays. I'm not saying that wasn't part of the WNBA 15 years ago or so, but I really do think we've all sort of caught up together, if that makes sense. Like the fans, the game, the way that we interpret and view the sport has evolved since then. I think the basketball fan base is far more informed than it was 15 years ago in an array of ways. But maybe that's just me and you because we're so informed and smart.
That's right. With my little rat buddy over here feeding me lines. I can understand rat, but this is my thought about gentrification and the gentrification that we talk about with real estate, neighborhoods, or basketball or movies. And nothing's supposed to look the same after 20 years. This is supposed to change. We're supposed to get Botox and crazy eyebrows. Like, we're not supposed to be watching the Rebecca Lobo years of the Liberty. Like, if we did, I'd be like, there's something wrong here. Like, that's what I mean by team building. At some point, you don't do anything. I don't think the WNBA should do anything currently because they have the agents of change in the game already. But if you don't, you have to do something. Like, the Knicks had to do something because they're not winning a championship with the current roster. It sucks to see lovable players go, but something had to change. And the WNBA, I feel like, is at an inflection point that we keep on talking about. But I think the heat behind Caitlin Clark is kind of dwindling because of politics and assassination attempts and holograms getting deleted. But I think now we get, to your point, now we get into maybe actual basketball stuff as we enter postseason stuff, and we're not talking about cultural elements, we're talking about basketball talk.
Yeah, and in the same way that, say, the three-point shot evolved in men's basketball, the exact same thing. And I think that's really kind of it makes total sense. But, like the Liberty take 47 threes a game, the same as the Boston Celtics. And if you went back to 2002, the league average in the WNBA was 13. So I just think as a product, it really has hit all these vectors at the same time, I guess is what I'm saying. The storylines are there, the game has evolved, the players are better. It's a good product. You know what else is a good product? The Miami Heat.
Hardest working, most caffeinated, biggest face team you ever seen.
We are doing key bumps on Heat culture down here in Wade County.
I mean, Heat culture is one of the few cultures in the NBA, right? Like, there's the Lakers, there's the Celtics, there's the Knicks, and then there's Heat, the Heat.
I don't think the Celtics have a culture.
Are you sure? Like White Boy Summer kind of stuff?
Oh, no, there's a fan base. But I mean, as an organization, I don't think of them having a culture. LA, actually, I don't really either. I think of them as having an imaginary culture.
Well,
the Heat is one, and the Spurs are one that have really been mythologized. And I think the Spurs, their descent into being a bad team and kind of irrelevant, and Kawhi leaving.
Is how
now
they
that
built their
Wemby,
first.
right? I'm saying now that Wemby
Robinson.
is there and they're going to be inevitably good, we're going to hear like Spurs culture again. It's going to happen now that Wemby is part of their future. But I would say those are two that really stand out: Heat culture and Spurs culture. You don't hear so much about like Pistons culture.
You hear about Jazz culture a little bit. Many wives. What is, you can't watch. Remember the old owner like couldn't watch playoff games because it conflicted with his religious observance?
Sort of. What do you think about Pelicans culture?
Ooh, we're talking po' boys, fried shrimp, spicy gumbo. I'm into it. A+.
I think more organizations should try to push this cultural idea, though. Like every time the Magic win, it's like, hey, well, that's Orlando culture right there.
The Knicks have some of that.
That's boy bands. That's Epcot.
Right, because the culture everyone wants is the Heat culture, which is the version of New York, like Timberlands and hard-nosed lunch pails and hard hats. Like, that's the culture everyone wants. Like, no one wants to be like, we're the prettiest or we're the most racist. It's like, that's another win for the Celtics. We're racist.
Yeah, I think Knicks definitely have a culture in the way that there is an idealized version of what the Knicks look like. And
This is it.
they were, the worst team overall for 20 years.
Easy,
but now
easy.
but I mean, technically
You're
speaking,
not my
they lost more.
therapist. What are you,
They
my
lost more
therapist?
games over 20 years than
Yeah.
anyone else. But now that they're good and they've pandered to this idea, they are exactly inhabiting the platonic ideal of Knicks culture, of Fat Joe, Jadakiss is here. We've got on Tim's, like we've got chew sticks. We're selling mixtapes in front of Fat Beats.
Jalen
We love Red
Brunson's
Cafe,
rattling.
Uncle Murder.
Jalen Brunson's rattling his tin cup in his cage, being like, "Less gruel." That's right. I said it. Even less gruel.
Knicks definitely have a culture right now, and that's why they love Thibs. But
Yeah.
yeah, I can't think of too many teams. But the reason I'm bringing this up is that Heat culture may be exposed. First of all, we've got my guy, Caleb Martin, as a Caleb Martin day one, who apparently took less money from Philly, or at least did not give Miami a chance to match the offer, to leave Wade County, to go to the Sixers, who are not necessarily notable as a winning culture. He bounced. He had enough.
And he
And he got-
was needed.
Go ahead.
He was needed in Miami. He's a very kind of valuable rotation player for them.
And he's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, he took last month. Yeah. And yeah, didn't have much to say. Also, your boy Chet Holmgren, talk about white boy summer.
He goes out and says, I like Miami because it's just like empty. As the away team, you just got to build that lead in the first three quarters, and then it just stays quiet for the fourth.
Damn.
He later clarified that he was saying that, people were in the like Lavo meatballs and the clubs that's within the bowels of the Heat Stadium in the third quarter because of halftime, which feels as if he was just kind of trying to
Yeah.
temper down a quote that would be construed as calling the Heat fans non-existent or quiet.
Famously,
I've been,
right?
I've been to that club, and I know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
It also isn't that true. Like, there aren't that many people out of the inhabitants of the stadium that are in the club. The club is hilarious. It's like people walking around with bottle service and like champagne sparklers, although they're not real because of flammability issues in the stadium. So they have like fake champagne sparklers.
How do you fake a sparkler?
They're like lights.
Oh, okay, that's festive.
Yeah, and they drop confetti from the ceiling and it falls on the food on the tables and in your drinks. And they're doing that at halftime. So that's, I think, what Chet is referring to.
That's fun.
But anyway, their fans are getting called out. People are leaving the team. Then you got D. Wade, who comes out and says, Bron is an amazing player, but you have to work around him. Nobody wanted it. My team didn't want it. My family didn't want it. Okay. They were pissed. Bron's team didn't want it. No one wanted that to happen. The game of basketball didn't want it to happen. Heat culture in shambles, Andrew. How? Why?
It is in shambles, right? And, Jimmy Butler taking them to the finals last year kind of solidified this idea of Heat culture. They made jerseys, they put writing on the floorboards. But then, all season, everyone was like, oh, the culture's there, just wait. They're not. They're just waiting for the playoffs, for the right time. Jimmy's just resting, and he's going to blow your mind. They did not blow any minds. I think they got swept. Maybe gentleman's sweep, I forget. But they went out like they were supposed to. And now their offseason has been kind of disappointing. They didn't really add a star. They claim that Terry Rozier was their ad. They just did it early, and we're like, that is not what we were looking for. They were looking for a splash, and at most, I don't know who they were targeting. Paul George, and at least DeMar DeRozan on that level. They didn't get any of those players, and I think they're at a significant disadvantage because I think every team and organization needs a writer or a media person to kind of be their spokesperson. And Dan Le Batard, I think, wrote so well and was such a good talking head for Miami sports for so many years, but kind of has grown as a person, sort of like you have grown as a person.
Yeah, I'm not the same guy that I was.
When you had those Jason Sudeikis takes, you know, like I don't want to hold you
me.
accountable for that. That's not you.
That's not who I am, Andrew.
But Le Batard has become a bigger thinker, and he's not bothered with the like daily operations of Miami Heat basketball in terms of public facing. And you need kind of those advocates in order to establish, if you want, a culture. And they don't really have a voice down there, so we're kind of active victim of the BMM, who's probably stronger than ever, and they love this shit.
I agree. Also, I think Bam Adebayo was a really good player. Very, very, very good player. Excellent defender. Mobile, big, fast, can do all these things. You really have not enjoyed the evolution of his offensive game.
Nope.
His love of taking mid-range jumpers sucks. It sucks. It makes him whack to watch. It's hurt his efficiency a lot. I mean, this season when he really started leaning into that part of his game, his free throw rate plunged, his efficiency plunged to league average. He's just not that good of an offensive player when you take that away from him. And he also isn't passing to the same degree that he was, you know, early 2020.
And he's not asked to now. Like, they have point guards now.
Yeah, and I totally get why that's the case. But in our book, The Joy of Basketball, which is phenomenal, and you need to buy several copies, in that book we talked about Bam kind of being the future of the league in many ways, which was that he was versatile, he could run the floor, he could handle the ball, he could pass, he couldn't really shoot. That there were these different ways, you know, to create new offensive players going forward. And he sort of swerved into being almost hyper-conventional, like a 2008 basketball player.
There's a whole slew of these guys. I think of Evan Mobley a little bit, you know, like so much promise in terms of evolutionary kind of prototypes, and ends up, to your point, kind of being things we recognize very well. Bam is a player I get mad at. I get mad at certain players because they play teams I consider rivals, like the Bucks, the Celtics, anyone in the East that kind of beats the Knicks. I'm like, come on, Heat, beat this team. And Bam's just taking these baby jumpers. I'm like, God damn it. Eric Spoelstra, clearly the best coach in the NBA. Like, is this just what your guy wants to do, or is this a design? Because like we're deep into his career at this point, and he's not shown like kind of the evolutionary potential that we thought he had.
At this point, you know, Bam has, you know, still really topped out at 20 points a game. Last 4 years, 19, 20, 19, 19. So we know where he is, right? And his minutes have been in the low 30s, like really, you know, traditional big starter minutes. 34 games, it's quite a lot. But so we know he's not a big time scorer. But at this point, he's taking 40% of his shots are now jumpers. And, you know, they're from places where he's shooting 40%, 38%, 35%. You know, like for his career on 16-footers, he's shooting 33%, from 3, 22%. It's like, what's going on? Like, I know how brilliant Spo is. He is not unaware of these kind of developments.
I mean, that's ethical basketball. If Heat culture is ethical, right?
I mean, true, they are. But it's just odd to see someone develop in a way that feels counterintuitive to modern basketball, but for a coach and organization that has at least presented themselves as being super insightful, and I think they are. I think Spo is an awesome coach, and I think he has great ideas, and he is adaptive. Just Bam's transformation from being weird and cool and unusual to kind of irritating is strange to me.
I mean, he looks good with AD on Team USA defensively, but I think
I'm not knocking his defense. He's an awesome defender.
Great switcher, smart guy, Draymond Green-esque. But I think the question you're asking that I kind of love is, do you think Heat culture is shaping a lesser team with this personnel? Are they like, hey, we do things this way because we are Heat culture. We don't do things that way. And, like, Jaime Jaquez Jr. is 1 year older. I love Jovic. He's a year older. Like, they have pieces there where they don't have to make a move. I thought it was fine to stay put for them. But, like, is the culture branding hurting their chances of winning more games?
Hard to say. I mean, they've always been a defensive first team. Even when they went to the finals against the Nuggets, they had injuries and things like that, but they were 25th ranked in offense that season. Last year, Butler was hurt, but 21st ranked. A couple of years back, like the one where they lost to the Celtics, where Jimmy missed that shot, they were a top 10 offensive team. But, this is a team that typically has been better on the defensive side. So I think that's kind of what you're getting at, is like, are you so indebted to your self-identity that you are putting your personnel in positions that are not optimized? Mm-hmm. Like, are you not playing Jovic because he doesn't fit into your idea of how the Heat are supposed to look on the court and what their vibe is supposed to be?
Yo, and cracking down on spring break, the Heat culture is the life on the beach of Miami and the income taxes and all that. Like, Heat culture is based off of Alonzo Mourning going there, LeBron James, Chris Bosh, free agency, basically, Shaquille O'Neal, and then all those tertiary pieces that make a championship team, like Lamar Odom. It's like, I would love to play in Miami with those guys, absolutely, and not pay income tax. And
that's funny that you mentioned that, because in comparison to Miami as a city, Heat culture is so antithetical to that.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, Miami, oh, yeah, hard work.
We draft, we turn pieces of coal into diamonds. Duncan Robinson.
Like, we're going down for Art Basel to get a little of that Miami culture. Grueling workouts, hard work, labor, dedication to craft, mastery of mid-range jumpers.
But them cracking down on spring break this year, I wonder if free agents were just like, nah, Miami's not the same. I don't want to deal with that culture stuff. I'm going to go to Sacramento. I wonder.
Team culture, pornography, crypto, club promoters.
Or you never know. It might be like, I fucking hate that mayor. Like, I just cannot deal to live in a state with that mayor. So, like,
Dizza didn't
governor.
recruit me.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not enough skating. There's not enough Andrew branding everywhere. Shout out to Dizza. But, like, it's totally based off of the cycle of nightlife, taxation, and personnel that the Heat have. And right now they're flipping over, right? Like, Jimmy's getting older. The rookies are not quite ready. Like, they're going to lose a ton of games. It wouldn't be crazy to think that eventually they would deal Bam Adebayo for a ton of picks, right? For like a proper rebuild.
This is true. Also, we're forgetting another key component, which is just babes. Like, that's...
Look, you're back to your Sudeikis take.
Okay, look, that was the old me.
Now this is the new me. I'm back to the old me.
No, these players don't care at all about the bathing suits and the beach and the fact that you can live in a rap video, for example.
And like, yeah, it's not even
drive around in your convertible in warm weather, not with babes. That was the old me talking. And this is why the Dame Lillard saga is fairly funny, but unfortunate for your favorite Portland rapper, was that he was going through a divorce. I mean, that sucks. He's like, well, at least I'm going to be in Miami. Like, actually. You like mini bowling? You like loaded fries?
There's been
like the RNC convention?
There's been rumors that the Knicks are inquiring about Brook Lopez, and I'm like, you know how much I love Brook Lopez, even though he's getting older. He's almost as old as Obi Toppin, but it's the hologram of Brook Lopez era. But I can't believe they've dismantled a solid team this quickly by like getting rid of their really good coach, by paying too much for kind of like a sunsetting shooter, and then trading away, rumored to be trading away their legitimate stretch big, who's their best defender still. Like, what's to the Knicks? Like, what's going on?
So there was a rumor about Doc Rivers and his lack of regard for Brook Lopez.
The fuck?
And that he believed they should basically find a new center, and that their defensive strategy with Brook Lopez wasn't going to work. And
Right.
this was a few months ago, and I heard that, and my ears perked up, Andrew, because I don't think Doc Rivers has good ideas, and I do think that
He's right
the
twice a
lone
game.
reason,
Right.
the lone reason that the Bucks remained dangerous has been the front court of Brook Lopez and Giannis. That dynamic really works. Brook spacing the floor, Giannis running and dunking, Brook planted beneath the rim as this, sentinel in the lane, and then Giannis flying in like a pterodactyl as a weak side helper.
Right.
That's all they can do. And that was Coach Bud's, ingenious pairing. And since they put those two together, the Bucks have been incredibly good. They've won a title. They've made some deep runs. They are extremely good. And it's due to that duo and that dynamic. And when I heard that Doc Rivers didn't like it, man, that was wonderful to hear. I want to see what Doc Rivers can put together.
To Doc Rivers' defense, which I say way too many times and I'm comfortable admitting, Brook Lopez seems like a independent thinker and kind of like has very many opinions on the court and questions coaches, and maybe Doc doesn't appreciate that, right? It's like, we're not winning a ton of games. You didn't win a championship this year. Why are you questioning my defensive scheme? Because Brook Lopez likes to be more mobile and doesn't like to be saddled next to one player necessarily. Styles make fights, whatever. But Brook Lopez, I think, is a coaching caliber NBA brain. And he is one of the few players, I think, who could be player coach. And when someone tells him to do something, he's like, this isn't the right scheme. I'm telling you, they're going to cook us. So I can imagine him being tough to work with.
I mean, I will also say Brook is 36 years old.
Yep. He had
So-
a good season last year, though.
I mean, he's good at what he does.
Yep.
But he is 36.
Yep.
And I'm not suggesting there isn't another way to skin the cat, so to speak. I just mean that I'd love to see Doc Rivers' solution. Because this is someone who, from a Sixers fan, I want to see him put Giannis next to a non-shooter because he's itching to do it.
Like, Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez kind of activate the court for Giannis. And this is easy to see if you watch the games, bro, right? Like, their spacing is crucial to give defenses a wrinkle. And if you take that dynamic off the table, like, Giannis isn't the same player. It's weird how Giannis, kind of echoing our conversation about Heat culture, like, we speak of him as if he was a cultural changer, as if him healthy on the court kind of changes the will and the morality of a team. It's the spacing of the bigs, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, offensively, Bobby Portis can do the same stuff that Brook can. He can post up smaller guys.
Yeah.
He can shoot.
I like
He's
him.
more mobile.
Yeah.
Portis has been a great fitting for them.
Yeah.
When when he's out there with Giannis, the offense is fantastic. You know, that's not the issue. It's that Lopez, like so many of these, that's a weird way of phrasing it, like other rare, legit stretch bigs / rim protectors, is the easiest plug and play type of like component in the league.
Yep.
Like Chet Holmgren, Brook Lopez,
Luke Cornett.
Porzingis, Luke Cornett.
Yeah.
If you have a legit rim protecting stretch 5, you can figure out what you need to do. Mm-hmm. And Brook Lopez
Joel
makes
Embiid.
life really easy
Yeah.
for that team. And when he's not out there, they can't defend.
Yeah.
So, again, I think Portis is a very good offensive player. But I also look at that team and I'm like, well, Doc, please put a non-shooting big out there just because I want to watch it. I want to see Giannis operate with another guy in the lane just for my own amusement. But yeah, they were 12th percentile as defensively when Lopez was off the court and Portis and Giannis were out there. They cannot defend. They had a net rating of +1 as a contender. Please, Doc, get creative.
You know who doesn't have to get creative?
The perfect pod?
Yet again, I don't know how we did it. I was shaky. I was like thinking about those rats, thinking about that poop.
Yep.
Somehow,
Yep.
perfect pod.
It was a test and I passed.
That's all right. This is the new you.
Cookies.
I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.